One of my favorite movies, Flight the Intruder, about the Vietnam War, had a quote by Fred Dalton Thompson, heaven rest his soul. I hope you know this is a time to come to Jesus. And I say this not to Donald Trump, because it's over for him. I say this to Pam Bondi, Attorney General of the United States. She was called to the Senate Judiciary Committee, and it was probably the worst back and forths you could ever imagine between a witness and the Senate Judiciary members. Pam Bondi broke her back, basically her tongue melted, in every possible way to defend Donald Trump from the allegations that face him regarding the Epstein files and her terrible work as Attorney General. I'm going to make this very simple for you. I'm going to read you an article, which is actually a letter, from John Pavlovitz. And to be very honest with you, he said more than I can in a single time about this whole situation. To be honest with you, when I read this letter, I cried. Why did I cry? Because the damage that Pam Bondi has done to this country, to the rule of law in this country, may not be able to be repaired. But it really stinged me when I saw images of Bondi refusing to look at the victims of Epstein and wondering how a woman like this could actually fall so far. The article from Pavlovitz is called Dear Pam Bondi, a letter from a father. Dear Mrs. Bondi, I am writing to you as an American, a former pastor, and the father of a daughter. I spent the day, as much as the rest of the nation, watching you speak before the House Judiciary Committee in a state of stunned disbelief, which surprises me, as I thought you reached the moral bomb many weeks ago. I witnessed you posturing and protesting, feigning indignation in the face of reasonable questions you repeatedly refused to answer. I looked on as you deflected and pivoted, performing the wildest verbal gymnastics to keep on providing the simplest clarity that our elected officials asked for and deserved, and wondering why anyone would do that. I sat incredulous, watching you to appear to lie with great ease, even joy, seeming to contradict both irrefutable evidence and your own words in the past. It was a tour de force in distraction, a true masterclass in gaslighting. And while 1,000 thoughts ran through my head, when it was over, I was left with one single question. How does someone become Pam Bondi? I'm not talking about your education, your professional experience, or your career path, which is easily retrieved. I'm talking about the meandering road to losing one's soul. I wonder how an apparently intelligent woman finds themselves sitting in the chair in front of the watching world in such a moment of gravity, so completely bereft of empathy, so seemingly unencumbered by other people's suffering, and so strident in the face of accountability. I try to imagine how you, the person entrusted with the stewardship of the law in the highest seat of power here, arrives at a place that the law has seemingly become irrelevant. Are the money and the power so intoxicating that they've rendered your conscience inoperable? Has your journey been filled with a million small compromises that burdened you in the beginning, but have slowly and emotionally anesthetized you to the point that you feel nothing? Are you so beholden to the man who enabled your ascension to this position that you are willing to shield him from the litany of heinous sins that you must know that he's guilty of? Maybe you don't even have the answers. Maybe you can't explain yourself, though I'm sure there's a story you have to tell yourself to keep the self-loathing at bay and let you sleep at night. I see that you don't have any children of your own. Perhaps if you did, you might see all of this differently. I don't know. It certainly shouldn't take that, but you are someone's daughter. And I do wonder how that little girl became the one sitting at that table today, so dismissive of other women who have survived trauma. I imagine there may be some answers there somewhere. But as the father of a daughter, I want you to know that I fully detest what you are doing to so many other people's children right now. I abhor your callous disregard for the daughters who stood courageously before you today, whose eyes you didn't have the dignity and the courage to look into. Women whose carnivorous hell you know full well because you poured all over it and countless times in words, photos, and videos. It sickens me to the core to know that thousands of survivors, girls and young women, none like my daughter, have experienced unspeakable horrors and are finding in you not a fierce willing advocate, not a steadfast warrior who will deliver them justice, but a shame-throwing avatar of the men who brutalized them. And if you truly do care for survivors, then I'd like to hear how you justify your treatment of them. They deserve that. We all do. I'm not sure what you believe in, but I am a person of faith, and my religious tradition tells me that we will all face accountability for our misdeeds and transgressions beyond this life, even if we invade them in this one. The possibility does provide me a small bit of comfort, but I hope you don't have to wait too long for that. I hope you face a legal reckoning for any betrayals of our nation that we know that you're guilty of, the chaos that you are willfully creating, and most of all of the sorrow that you are exacerbating for the daughters and the sons throughout this nation who feel less safe and less protected. They are afraid because the law seems to be refusing to drag these monsters out into the light of day, and because people like you appear so willing to correct the darkness. I hope whatever you got for your soul was worth it to you, it sure as hell isn't worth it to the rest of us. Thank you, John Pavlovitz, for that article. Not being a father myself, I can attest to a lot of what John Pavlovitz said. However, I am a son. I was raised with a mother and a father, and both told me what was right and what was wrong. Even when they divorced and moved on with their lives, they still continue to teach me, even to this day, what a real man is supposed to be. What a real man's responsibility is. What a person is supposed to do with their lives. On that score, Pam Bondi, you have failed. You have failed. Now, regardless of who's in the Epstein files, all of them should burn. But the only person who is fighting tooth and nail to keep them under lock and key, and who screwed up into posting the names of victims, is you. Maybe you're trying to find some way of discouraging them to talk, or maybe you're trying to have your friends in the MAGA harass them into staying silent. In either case, or maybe you're just completely negligent like the rest of the Trump regime. But you would think that hearing the horrors of women and young girls, now young women, going through some of the heinous stuff you could ever imagine would actually provoke some sort of reaction from you. Now, personally, if Trump didn't do anything to kids or girls, I'll be the first one to apologize. But we know he did, because there's a litany of evidence pointing right at him. We know that you were ordered to cover up what happened in those files. And right now, you trying to cover it up or feign anger like you did during the committee hearing by screaming about "I'm sick of how they're treating Trump," which is no more than a symptom than Pam Bondi screaming that I'm screaming to defend my pimp after he beat on me, shows to me that you have lost your soul. You let Trump steal away your soul. Now, maybe you're beholden to him because you got this position, or maybe he has something on you. The possibility is he may have something on you that lets you do things like this, to defame victims of sexual assault because they're pointing directly at him. In any case, you have disgraced the very law you're supposed to be enforcing. Your job as Attorney General is to enforce the law of the land, not to be Donald Trump's personal defense attorney. And if you can't understand that, then you don't need to be in this position. Frankly, it's a miracle that you lasted this long. It's a minor miracle that you lasted as long as you have. You should have been fired the second it became known that Donald Trump gave orders to you and Mr. Bug Eyes, Kash Patel, director of the FBI, to cover up what's in the files, to go through them with a fine-tooth comb to edit every mention of Donald Trump in those files. And you screaming at senators is not going to help at all. It only made you more guilty. And Donald Trump is not going to be able to save your ass at that point. because right now his ass is in a sling. But the idea that you would insult women and girls, and what really bothers me is you saw the photo in the video that victims of Epstein stood up in that chamber and you didn't even look at them. Not because you're afraid to, not because Donald Trump told you not to, because you know that you have nothing but shame. Total and complete, absolute shame. Shame that you put these women through this. Shame that they have to defend themselves before their attackers. Let me put it this way, because it's not only Trump or Epstein, the list is too long. You couldn't look at the victims that day because you knew you were wrong. And those faces, those names, their eyes should haunt you to the day you die. It will haunt any sane person looking at the faces of the victims of sexual assault. Now, John Pavlovitz believes, now I'm a Christian too, I'm a saved Christian. I do believe in the heaven as I do believe in hell. And I've got a lot to answer for. Believe you me, all of us in this world do. Not everybody in this world is sinless. We know that. And I know I got an answer for what I've done. But when it comes to you, Pam Bondi, I have not done half of what you've done. And the sick part about it is, you didn't do it because it was the right thing to do. You didn't do it because you did oh my God. You did to defend a man whose only defense for the fact that he didn't rape a woman, wasn't to fight back against those allegations, not to fight tooth and nail to exacerbate them. Not like you or even I would defend ourselves if our names were being dragged in the mud. His defense, when it came to E. Jean Carroll, was, and I quoting, "I did not rape her because she would not be my first choice, that I can tell you." Which means you did do it. And you are defending this. You are defending him. And the question I've got for you is why? What does this man have over you? What do you owe him? I know we will never get the right answer to that question. That in itself is going to be a question no one can answer. Not even Pam Bondi. Not because she won't answer it, because she can't answer it. And I don't think I want to know the answer, to be honest with you. But let's make the one thing abundantly clear. At some point, Pam Bondi, you are going to be held accountable for what you have done. And I'm not just talking about the Epstein case, because that in itself is the final noose that will hang you. And Donald Trump is honestly going to push you off that balcony. But everything you've done, from explaining away the murders in this country in the hands of ICE, explaining away the inhumanity, everything that has happened in this country, you are going to be held accountable. Mark my words, Bundy. If you want to take this as a threat, you are more than welcome to do so. You see, Pam, you had a chance to stand up against him. But for whatever reason, whether he gave you billions of dollars, whether you slept with him, he has a recording of you, perish the thought. All joking aside, whatever the 30 pieces of silver, and in case you're a Christian or in case you read the Bible or saw Passion of the Christ, you know what I mean by 30 pieces of silver that Donald Trump paid you. It was not worth it. It wasn't worth it in light of the things that has happened, the people that are screaming for justice. In one way or another, we will get justice in the names of the people, the names of the women that your boss violated. And once it happens, Bundy, I go back to the original quote. I hope you know it's time to come to Jesus. CTP, no truth, God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.